Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's session of Unit 6 of Transformation of the IQI Academy for Quality and Management Fundamentals. And we're here to learn, to have fun, and to make a difference. Yesterday, we completed our review worksheets. Very interesting and almost dynamic responses as you talked about your experience of dealing with the Academy through your Teach to Learn conversations. And I appreciate the work you put into doing that. You also completed 3 basic questions. And although it wasn't on yesterday's assignment list, most of you completed Teach to Learn conversations for yesterday's session. And then the request was to invite 2 more capstone participants. And so far, we have invited as a group 164 people, and we've had 59 people say yes to our invitations. Not a whole lot have said no, and so we're waiting on 90 some people to respond one way or the other. You might want to touch base with the people you've invited and ask them to respond one way or the other. Today we're going to talk about pivot practices. We have a guest instructor who I'll introduce in just a second here. And then please continue making progress on your PDSA cycles. I am very pleased to introduce Bernadette Johnson. She's a friend and associate of mine for many years. Bernadette is globally recognized for transforming and leveraging the way leaders lead and how they learn with focus on those seeking to make a difference by being the difference. Her practice, Inspired Action Motivates, is a practice in which she helps organizations to leverage their return on leadership. Bernadette successfully partners across numerous industries, for-profit, for-purpose, chambers, and associations, guiding leaders to anchor transition and stimulate innovation by aligning their practices with desired results. She's the founder of the LinkedIn group Leading from the Middle. She's the author of Waves of Influence, Your Expanded Guide and Insight to Your Higher Self, as well as the upcoming book, Waves of Leadership, an inspiration for those leading from the middle. Bernadette completed the Academy when it was still the CQI Academy.
Yeah.
And Bernadette, I'd like to thank you for contributing to and making a difference for us today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Eric. I appreciate it. I was sharing with Eric a couple weeks ago when he had asked me about it. And I mean, my first response was yes. I didn't even know what I was going to be doing, but I was sharing with him. It was well, we won't say how long ago it was because you'll start adding things up. But it was when I come from the corporate world, and our whole management team went through the Academy, and it was about close to 40 of us. And so that's how much we believed in the processes and of integrating it within our organization. And so when Eric asked me, I had to say, yes, that's paying it forward, right?
Yeah. So thank you very much for doing that. And that example, can I just say something about that?
Yes.
Organizations, many organizations have sent their entire leadership team through the Academy all at once. We've had like New Wave Technologies sent 20 people through at the same time, including CEO.
Yeah.
Message Makers sent their entire leadership team through. So there was no one back at the office when they were in the Academy. People made notes in their Academy reviews. I think, Ian, you were one of them that said, you know what, when more people have an understanding of the conversation, it's a lot easier to talk about these concepts. And so that's a powerful thing to have several people go through the learning experience at the same time. So thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah, I one of the things that is interesting as I was listening, because I did have opportunity to listen to David Lang, as well as attending yesterday, and recognizing how many of the IQI practices is integrated into my practice, like all these years later. And I think I shared with you the interrelationship diagram. Literally, I showed Eric the one that I just did with the leadership, executive leadership team 3 weeks ago. So it's been 20 plus years since, and it still stands up. Right?
It does.
So amazing.
Thank you. Yep.
So excited to be here today. We're going to talk about embracing pivot practices. And so I want to thank you for the generosity of showing up today and choosing to show up. My intention today is to hold a space for learning, for discovery, for dialogue, and for curiosity. You're going to hear that word a lot. I will share the pivot practices, and these are based on our leadership base from Inspired Action Motivates, and it's over 300 leaders in the last 22 months, and was just collecting information, and it's like, here's the common threads. And so that's what I'll be sharing today. I also subscribe to Meg Wheatley's definition of leader. It's anyone who cares and stands up. Anyone who cares and stands up. It's not about titles. So you will hear me say leaders a lot and refer to you as leaders, whether or not you have the title doesn't matter to me. You're here, you're standing up, and you're here because you care and you want to show up in a way that makes a difference. I invite you to use these practices as your launch pad and integrate it into what you're learning at the Academy, as well as choose what resonates with you. I'm not saying, here's a pivot practice, you gotta do it this way. I'm offering this up. So choose what resonates with you and just release the other things. No, this doesn't mean I'm hungry. So the story I wanted to share is that there's two coworkers and they were taking their lunch break, and one opened up their lunch bag and they said, man, peanut butter and jelly again, every day. Peanut butter and jelly and peanut butter. You think one day I would just have, I don't know, turkey and Swiss, ham and cheddar. That'd be nice. So they ranted, and their buddy, having heard this every day, said, you know what, well, why don't you tell your partner that you'd like something different? Why don't you ask them tonight so you can have something different tomorrow? To which they replied, my partner, are you kidding me? They don't pack my lunch, I do. And so all of that to say that so often we're looking outside of ourselves for the difference when it is about us. And I remember hearing Eric talk about that yesterday when we talk about transformation. It starts with us. Yes, there needs to be things that happen outside of us, but it always begins with us. And so the interesting thing about the peanut butter and jelly sandwich is that they're packing it every day, being dissatisfied. And they keep opening up the lunch bag thinking something different is going to be there. It can't be. It's an impossibility, right? Not realizing, not recognizing that they have the power of choice. They have the power of choice. Sound familiar, right? That's for all of us. That's a message for all of us. So the story begs us not just to be conscious of our choices, but recognize that we have them. And it's in our power. And so when we talk about pivoting, that is also in our power. There's a quote, and you see it on the screen, Alvin Toffler. He says, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write. It will be those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write. It will be those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And I remember seeing this like years ago, but in the last 22 months, this is it right here. And as leaders, that's what it's asking us to do. So as we move forward, so this is a quote, this is going to be the overarching quote for us this morning. As we move forward, I invite you to think about two concepts. Think about two concepts. The first one, and I know you talked about this system of profound knowledge. As we go through the pivot practices, think about where does each one of those naturally slide into that framework? Where do they naturally slide into that framework? So that's the first thing I want you to think about and write down. The second thing is think about what question, if answered, would pivot you to another level. What question, if answered, would pivot you to another level? What question, if answered, would pivot you to another level? And we'll circle back at the end of our session to see if that question was answered for you. So that is your guiding question. This is our overarching quote. And those two things that you want to think about as we go through this, where do the practices fit nicely, slide into your system of profound knowledge? And what question, if answered, would pivot you to another level? Make sense?
It does. Can I make a comment here?
Yes, please.
So the quote, learn, unlearn, and relearn, frequently we look at that as if it's individual learning. And what does it look like when an organization is learning? What does it look like or feel like when an organization is unlearning and then relearning? That's something very drastically different than an individual learning and
that's
unlearning.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about this too, Eric, and thank you for that point. Is Alvin is talking about, like, I know him, right? We're like this. Alvin is talking about individual, but you're absolutely right. As leaders, we have to think about that, but it still starts with us. And then how do we be a catalyst? How do we guide our organizations to that? What does that practice look like, right? So in the last 22 months, we've experienced firsthand what it's like to be in a VUCA environment. VUCA stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous environment. Meaning there are not just unknowns, but also things that look normal that shift into something totally different. That doesn't sound familiar, does it? Right? So here's the thing. As leaders, we can wait to get back to normal, adjust to a new normal, or embrace an evolving normal, which calls for us to be ready to shift, to anticipate circumstances that may occur, and then to have practices that root us and give us the capacity to pivot. So when you think about the practices that root us, think about the system of profound knowledge. Those are practices that you can ground you as you shift. Our evolving normal is created an environment for building the capacity to fail fast, learn fast, so we can adapt and shift quickly. Does that make sense? Right? And so, it is what it is. So how do you live within that? So thriving in our evolving normal requires this, plus becoming fluid in our thinking and in our actions, and having rooted core practices. This period of time is an ideal opportunity to re-strategize who we are, re-strategize what we do, how we show up in the world. And that way we can reemerge stronger and even more impactful to those who we serve. So there are 5 practices that have emerged for us, as I shared with the leadership base, that helped us as leaders to evolve as we move forward and as we pivot. So as I share them, think about which area is calling to you the most. Which area is calling to you the most? Building your muscles to be more flexible, resilient, and nimble. Increasing your inquisitive nature. Boosting your tolerance for holding contradictions. Seeing beyond problems. Being a catalyst. So building your muscles to be more flexible, increasing your inquisitive nature, boosting your tolerance for holding contradictions, seeing beyond problems, being a catalyst. Which one right now is calling to you? Rocky, you're first on my screen. Which one is like you feel a draw to?
Ironically, it's the Paradox Navigator. Over time, I've been more a conveyor of wisdom, but right now I'm going through a lot, and it just seems if you hold and get through it, you learn a lot and you grow a lot.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, makes sense. Thank you, Rocky. Ashley, you're next on my screen. Which one's calling to you?
Sorry, the mute button wasn't working, but I'm gonna be the agility champion. Is that the one that's like build muscle?
Yes, build your muscles to be more flexible, resilient.
Definitely, probably the agility champion for me.
Agility champion. Awesome. Thank you. Eric, what is resonating for you?
Yeah, I like the curiosity pursuer. It's one of those things is, tell me more about that. How could I know? How can I understand that? I loved, for instance, the video link that you sent me last night with Malcolm Gladwell and the author of Range. I'm gonna forget David's last name, but that conversation was so powerful because here's 2 people that are just so interested in learning and then sharing their learning with the world that we all benefit from that.
Yeah.
So the being a curiosity pursuer, I think also means sharing. Here's what we're discovering.
Right. You're not keeping it to yourself.
Right. So that one speaks to me.
Awesome. Awesome. I just realized we had 2 Erics.
Yeah, I almost jumped in there too. Thanks, Eric. Yeah.
I was like, his lips aren't moving.
I'm in agreement with Eric though, the curiosity pursuer, and as Rocky, we're going through a lot of transition and transformation, not just individually, but as an organization as a whole right now. So anything that we can embrace and grasp that's a new way, really hits the mark, like that learn, unlearn, and relearn is something that we're certainly going through together right now. So curiosity.
There's nothing like the shared experience, is it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, other Eric. Ian, you're next on my screen. What resonates with you?
I was going to go with the solution seeker. I've always been someone who's focused on the end goal. So finding the actual final solution is important to me.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Hillary.
Say mine is kind of like a twofold. I would say curiosity pursuer, but then also the solution seeker, I guess, because for me, I consider myself a thinker. So I'm always very curious and I ask a lot of questions, but I'm looking for a solution. I'm always trying to seek what is the answer. So I say both of those for me.
Awesome. Awesome. And last but not least, Tyler, what calls to you out of this?
You can add another one to curiosity pursuer. A lot of the time I feel like I'm sufficiently busy that it's just easier to not ask questions and just do the task and check the box. And so, yeah, that's something I would work on about myself among these options.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to go through each one of them. So it is just a toe dip in the water, but it'll be enough. It'll be enough for you to grasp it. I'm positive of that. And so as I go through each one, my process is to share content and then give guiding questions. So you can tell one of mine is Curiosity Pursuer. I will share guiding questions. So as you begin, so just so you can sit with the questions. And so if you want to dive in more, you can, or use them as a guide as you go forward. Does that make sense? We're good? Okay, agility champion. Agility calls for us to embrace and adapt to transformation, not transition, transformation. This environment, VUCA environment, calls for us to be almost in a perpetual elasticity. That's hard to say 3 times. Perpetual elasticity, right? Because things keep shifting, things keep changing. And so we have to as well. And so folks who are agility champions, these transformation ready leaders, don't just ask what they need to know about a given situation. They ask what they need to learn from it. So not just what they need to know, but what they need to learn from it. And so to be an agility champion, there's 3 areas that will help us become more agile and be a champion of it. It's learning agility, mental agility, and emotional agility. And so what I mean by learning agility is the ability to explore and experiment. The ability to explore and experiment. And so to know not just what to do, how can I say this? It's being able to know what to do when you don't know what to do. Does that make sense? Right? To know what to do when you don't know what to do. So that's about the whole idea of when you talk about systems, right? It's to do that sense making. And so that's what's brilliant about your teach to learn practice. And remember the exercises Eric shared yesterday, 9 dots, the maze, the kitchen counter, right? Which one is different? That's sense making. That is sense making. And you're always questioning, what don't I know? What am I missing? And so being a student of your own experience, which is to teach to learn, is the fastest way to accelerate learning agility, because the lessons are often sitting in plain sight, just like the maze, just like the 9 dots, right? Mental agility, so that's learning agility. Mental agility is the ability to anticipate or adapt uncertain, changing situations. An ability to anticipate or adapt to uncertain or changing situations. What research shares with us is that people with a higher degree of mental agility can find more creative solutions, be more open to change, and find opportunities within challenges. That's the benefit of having the mental agility. And the last one there is emotional agility. And that is the ability to manage our thoughts and feelings, the ability to manage our thoughts and feelings. And you've heard it more of emotional intelligence. That's what they're talking about there, right? And so being able to manage our thoughts and feelings where we're not going to get hooked by them. We can notice them and manage ourselves from there. Does that make sense? Yes? So to be an agility champion means we lean into the unknown with curiosity. We're seeking to be agile, to be flexible before we need to. That's what agility is about. We can see it coming and we can change. We can shift before we need to. So here's your guiding questions. You ready? Yes? Y'all can nod or, okay. First question, there's two. First question, when was the last time you did something for the first time? When was the last time you did something for the first time? The thing is, your response will tell you where you are in that comfort zone. When was the last time you did something for the first time? And the second question is, ask yourself, if I were to think about a project, if I were to do it all over again tomorrow, what would I change and what would I repeat? So think in lines of like the PDSA, right? Okay, so that is agility champion. The next thing is curiosity pursuer. Curiosity pursuer, and a few of you said this was what was calling you. This is the way we change, adapt, and do our important work. Being the one who asks the curious questions of others as well as ourselves. And the path is through questions. Questions are powerful. They allow us to look at a situation with fresh eyes, discover something new about our journey, and it also invites us to new solutions. When you're a curiosity pursuer, we're able to see gaps in our knowledge as opportunities to learn. And it also allows us to test our assumptions. And we talked a little bit about that yesterday. Curiosity creates room for possibility, and it has the power to expand boundaries of our thinking about ideas as well as people. And so your guiding questions for curiosity pursuer, ask yourself, what do I need to embrace and what do I need to release to move forward? What do I need to embrace and what do I need to release to move forward? We're always good about adding things on. We're not good about subtracting stuff. So what do you need to embrace? What do you need to release? So that's the first question. Second question that will help you be a curiosity pursuer. If there is a point of contention, and here's the question you want to ask. What's the rest of the story? What's the rest of the story? Versus reacting to whatever is happening. Ask yourself, what's the rest of the story? What don't I know? So we reviewed the practice of agility champion, curiosity pursuer. Now we're looking at the Paradox Navigator. And so a paradox involves contradictory yet interrelated elements that exist simultaneously and persist over time. And so being a paradox navigator, we become comfortable with holding those two things at the same time, right? Navigating paradox is not new, but normally it's an individual journey, right? The circumstances over the last 22 months have made this a collective experience. It's made it a collective experience. And so to be a paradox navigator means the ability to reframe how we look at things, moving from black, white, right, wrong, either or, to both and. So there are three that I want to share with you today. Ready? Strategic executor. In the last 22 months as leaders, we've had to balance those two things, being a strategic executor. Strategic by looking to the future to inform our decision-making today, and being an executor to deliver our day-to-day stuff. The day-to-day stuff still had to go on, right? So the guiding question for strategic executor, how do you execute effectively while also being highly strategic? How do you execute effectively while also being highly strategic? The other paradox this year for leaders, or the last 22 months, was being a humble hero. Being a humble hero, being both of those things, right? Humble to foster deep personal resilience in yourself and others, and recognizing when help and when you need help, when to help and when you need help. Being a hero is also, as a leader, to exude confidence. I didn't say arrogance. Those are two different things, but to exude confidence. Your guiding question is, how do you have confidence to act in an uncertain world and the humility to recognize when you are wrong? How do you have the confidence to act in an uncertain world and the humility to recognize when you are wrong? And the last one I wanted to share with the Paradox Navigator is traditional innovator. Traditional innovator. The traditional part is to stay deeply connected to the purpose of the organization and drive innovation to try new things. Drive innovation to try new things. And so your guiding question, and I'll repeat it twice, how do you use the past to help direct your future success? How do you use the past to help direct your future success while also creating a culture that allows innovation, failure, learning, and growth? How do you use the past to help direct your future success while also creating a culture that allows innovation, failure, learning, and growth? So we covered agility champion, curiosity pursuer, paradox navigator, and we're down to the last two. So the next one is solution seeker. And so that's different than a problem solver. Not that we don't need to solve problems and fix what's right in front of us now, but a solution seeker has an abundance way of thinking. They see around corners. They know the pie is larger than conventional theory tells us. That solution seeker plays an infinite game. They seek to understand the connectedness of all, not just individual pieces. They identify the possibilities of a situation because they are looking for it. They're able to see challenges before they happen and opportunities before they spark. Your guiding questions for this, if you think about where you are, what's a problem that irritates you repeatedly? What's a problem that irritates you repeatedly? That is like begging, fix me, and what else needs to happen? What's a problem that irritates you repeatedly? The second guiding question, what's the cost of managing that problem over time? What's the cost of managing that problem over time? Very often we do workarounds. We don't find solutions or why this is happening. So what's the problem that irritates you repeatedly? What's the cost of managing that problem over time? Our last one, woohoo! Convener of Wisdom. The pandemic has put a premium on the quality of relationships, right? And community, as well as the wisdom within them. And you want to think of this cohort, this is part of your community, which is powerful. We've learned as leaders, being in radical uncertainty meant an opportunity to invite our families, our schools, our community, our customers to co-create the future with us. That's what this opportunity is. And you're in that place now to be a convener of wisdom. So being a convener of wisdom is finding value in the collective, finding value in the collective. We have an amazing opportunity as leaders right now to create spaces for people to learn together. And we talked about shared experiences, discover and co-create solutions, connect at a deeper level, Build trust by inviting the others, so they're not the others anymore. Build trust by inviting the others in. And as leaders, we must leverage our community and look outward while inward to level up our capabilities. Does that make sense? So your guiding question for this one, to become a convener of wisdom, what are some possible challenges, or as Dave called them, problemtunities? What are some possible problemtunities that my team may encounter over the coming months? What are some possible problemtunities that my teams may encounter over the coming months? The second guiding question, what can I do right now to understand the likelihood of those changes and help my team best respond to them? What can I do right now to help them respond to them? Okay, our last thing is taking the leap. So as you think about it now that you know what all of these are, you have an idea of what all of these are, which are the 5 practices: agility champion, curiosity pursuer, paradox navigator, solution seeker, convener of wisdom, if embraced, would help you to contribute the most? So now that you know that, which one? Hillary, you're next on my screen now.
I don't know. I feel like the biggest challenging one would be the convener of wisdom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Trying to figure out what challenges that could be ahead without them being even present yet. So I think is like what you're saying with the pandemic. You got to plan ahead of the curve, which
right, see around the corners, right?
Right, which is really challenging to do that. And I think that's probably a good skill to have if you're able to kind of use predictions to I guess test or potentially plan for it. You're kind of guessing in a sense.
Right. Well, I mean, think about the plan, do, study, act, right?
Exactly.
It's their hypothesis. Yeah. Awesome. Eric with a K.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm finding kind of a blur among a few, but the couple that I starred, I guess, were actually different than my original of curiosity pursuer. So the first was the agility champion.
Yep.
I feel during this time right now, I'm embracing the change and trying to learn as much as I can. So each day is a new experience for me, which also puts me behind in some aspects as well, because it makes me, start to question, okay, well, if I were to do it today, what I know from yesterday, then I would do it this way. And then the other one was the solution seeker too. And what stuck out or resonated with me from that was, seeing the interconnectedness in the interactions. I think that it's once you start to look at things from a higher level instead of the weeds, it's easier to see that and then be able to at least have some discussions and some conversations around that as part of that ability to change. So
right, to get up to that 25,000 foot level.
Yep,
right,
exactly.
So you can see all.
Yep.
Awesome.
As we're saying right now, it's instead of being on the dance floor, we're up in the balcony. That's the steps we're trying to take. Yep.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Thank you, Eric. Ian, you're next on my screen.
I'd still stay with the one that I said originally, the solution seeker, just because it resonates with me. I feel like everyone has issues that come up multiple times, but then they don't pursue.
Right.
So I think having the ability to then gather that information and try to find a solution would be a good way to help employee satisfaction.
Awesome. Eric with a C.
Well, I'm thinking I'm changing what I said originally. I like the conversation you had around Paradox Navigator and the idea that we're always balancing what occurs to us as paradoxes. And for me, that's another internal conversation. It's only a paradox because of the way we see things.
Yes.
And learning how to see something differently resolves a paradox. But by what method can I do that? So I'm going to go back through all your questions because they're all very powerful, and study them, and especially around dealing with paradox. So I appreciate that conversation.
Oh, thank you. And I will send a sheet with all the questions too.
Excellent.
Tyler.
I think I would stick with my first answer of curiosity pursuer. I'm still relatively new to the organization I'm working in, and the problems around me are sufficiently complex that I think the only way I'm going to be able to be a solution seeker is to continue to be curious and learn about the things around me.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Tyler. Rocky.
So I'm going to stay with Paradox Navigator. I think it's something needed, and we have to deal with the day-to-day and also look at the future. And that's been a push that's been driving me. So I'm looking to learn about that more.
Awesome. And last but not least, Ashley.
I got my mute button ready this time, but I'm gonna stick with the agility champion, but I also wanted to add the curiosity pursuer as well. I think they both resonate with me. The ability to what you call perpetual elasticity, like you're constantly, the only thing that's consistent is change. So things are always constantly moving, everything's always changing, and you have to be able to adapt to that change and still find that success, especially when you talk the points of mental and emotional learning. Those really stood out to me. And then with the curiosity pursuer, I am well known for asking questions. Like if first you don't succeed, I will ask anybody that walks past me. Like if I don't understand something, I will get to the bottom of it, and I will figure it out. It's always kind of been my my theme to find that solution, because at the end of the day, that's the goal, is to come up with solutions.
To be able to move forward, right?
Right.
Awesome. I'm so excited for you guys. Okay. I know this sounds like a game show, right? We have gifts. So we're going to do a raffle. Here are our choices. We got Pivot by Jenny Blake. Think Again, Adam Grant. I know you guys are familiar with him. Book of Beautiful Questions. Love that book. It is dog-eared for me. Upstream, perfect to see around corners. We got Beginners. Oh, I love that whole idea of beginner's mind. Range, as Eric talked about. Malcolm Gladwell. Woo, that was a good one. Think Like a Rocket Scientist. That's looking at the facts. And creative. What is the last word?
Confidence.
Thank you. Creative confidence. Okay, so I am going to go out. Oh, I have to share my screen, don't I? That would be good. Okay, I'm going to stop this one. Okay, Eric?
Yeah, let's see. I'm going to shift this. So you should be able to share.
Okay. Okay, can you see it?
No, let me change this. I'm not seeing it. So maybe I'll have to describe what you're doing.
If any one of us clicks view options at the top on that menu, there's two different, previously it showed screen shares and it had both of your names, and I was able to switch to Bernadette. But
oh, good.
Oh, okay. Okay, can you guys see it now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Well,
I'm
I can
going.
doing that switch. So just
Okay, I am going to, there's a wheel that have all your names on it, and I'm going to spin it. We're going to do it twice.
And what happens when their name comes up?
Okay, Gloria is not with us, right?
Right.
Okay.
My name's not on that either. So apparently I win every book. Thanks.
Okay, whose name's not on it?
Eric.
Eric with a K.
My name, Eric with a K.
Ah!
So I have to leave shortly. Can I come back, Eric? Sorry,
Yes.
Bernadette.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe Eric can be Gloria. Did he just win?
Yeah, we could swap out Eric for Gloria. That's a good idea.
That
Okay,
works.
I just put Eric on there.
Not that easy, Eric. I tried to get you a book.
I know it. I appreciate that. All right. I got to drop off too.
Okay, Ashley.
I win.
Woohoo! Okay, and I'm going to, okay, remove. And the second winner is Eric with a K.
All right. So you'll be happy to know that. Yeah.
Yes, so you can, yes, you'll be able to tell him. So Ashley, you just email me and let me know, or let Eric with a C know which book you would like and what form, print, ebook, or Audible. Sound good?
All right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so this is what I'm ending with, Viktor Frankl. When we are no longer able to change the situation, we are challenged to change ourselves.
Thank you very much for that.
Mm-hmm.
This has been a wonderful session. I really appreciate the work you did and the contributions. And I'm going to go back over this material again. It's been very useful and powerful for me. If you haven't, please invite 2 more capstone guests. Even if you have, look for making those requests. Please update your theory of knowledge mind map. And even though it's not listed here, do your teach to learn conversation today about pivot practices. And then our 2 quotes for today. The first one is, truth is a poor test for knowledge. The real test is utility. A theory that enables us to do new things constitutes knowledge. That might really work for especially our solution seekers in the group.
Mm-hmm.
And then from Isaac Asimov says, experimentation is the least arrogant method of gaining knowledge. The experimenter humbly asks a question of nature. So that might be our curiosity seekers.
That's right.
That. So thank you very much, Bernadette, and thank you everyone for participating today. That's it for our session. Any final comments or questions that people have, you're welcome to stick around and talk with Bernadette if you'd like.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we will say goodbye and see you all tomorrow.
All right, thank you.